Altcoins have been bleeding for years, just slowly trending lower without seeing any all season like we have in previous cycles. While Bitcoin had a bull market, the broader alt market didn't see the same kind of upside. And now that Bitcoin itself has been in a bear market for about 5 months, the altcoin market has once again followed it to the downside. Right now, about 38% of the entire alt market is sitting at all-time lows, which is honestly a pretty wild statistic when you think about it. But after years of bearish charge and weak conditions for altcoins, something interesting is starting to happen. Some of the charts and indicators that has been bearish for years has now started to show signs of a potential bottom forming. So in today's video, I want to go through some of the signs and research I have been looking into that could suggest that we are starting to see the first signs of a bottom forming for the alt market. Now, before we jump into the charts, I want to give some context first. Personally, most of my investments are in Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I only have a small bag of altcoins. I'm not someone who goes all in on small cap altcoins and try to catch the next launch that could 100x. But recently I decided to take a look into the broader alt market again. And honestly, I was pretty surprised by what I found. Some of these altcoins have been trending downward for over 3 years. And when a market stays in a downtrend for that long, it raises an important question. Is the market still going lower? Or are we slowly approaching a bottom? So the first chart I decided to look at was the others divided with Bitcoin chart. This chart basically compares the alt market to Bitcoin. Simply it shows if the alt market as a whole is outperforming Bitcoin. If this chart starts to go up, it means that altcoins are gaining strength on Bitcoin, and if it goes lower, it basically means that Bitcoin is outperforming altcoins. Now, if we measure from the peak of this chart, which happened around the start of 2022 when the last major alt season ended, the alt market has been in a downtrend for around 1,253 days. That's over 3 years of altcoins underperforming Bitcoin, which is an extremely long period of weakness for the alt market. But recently something interesting starting to happen on this chart. Some people on X have started pointing out that the chart may have just broken out of a long descending trend line that has been holding the market down since the last cycle. And what's interesting is that before the previous alt rally, we actually saw a similar trend line breakout. Now that alone of course doesn't guarantee anything. Trend lines break all the time. But when you combine this with other indicators, things starts to become interesting. If we look at the MACD indicator on the weekly time frame, it has recently flipped green again below the zero line. And typically when the MACD flips bullish below the zero line, it can signal that momentum is beginning to shift. Now the one thing here to keep in mind is that this signal happens fairly often on the weekly time frame. If you zoom out on the chart, you'll see that the MACD has flipped green multiple times during this downtrend. And sometimes those signals didn't really lead to anything major. So at first I didn't put too much weight on this signal, but then I decided to zoom out and look at the monthly time frame instead. And this is where things started to look more interesting. Because on the monthly chart, the MACD indicator has recently also flipped bullish. And signals on the monthly time frame tends to be way more significant than on the weekly time frame. And that's simply because on the monthly time frame they take longer to develop. So if we look back at the previous bullish MACD cross on the monthly chart, the last move happened around 640 days ago. However, this was just one candle close. We didn't really get any follow through on it. So if we measure the full bearish period from the last major altcoin top until now, the altcoin market has been trending down for roughly 1,300 days on this MACD chart. And so far we have already seen multiple green monthly candles after this new bullish crush, which could suggest that the market is starting to build momentum again. But there is another interesting thing on the monthly chart. There is a major support level that the alt market has touched a few times in its history. And the last time the market reached that level, it was right before we saw a massive altcoin rally. Now once again, the chart has come back down to the support level. And so far the market has bounced from it. Now of course, the others divided with Bitcoin chart doesn't tell us everything. Another chart that has been extremely important over the past few years is of course the Bitcoin dominance chart. And this chart basically shows the total crypto market held in Bitcoin. And for the last few years, this chart has been in a strong uptrend, which basically means that Bitcoin has been outperforming the alt market as a whole. But recently something interesting may have happened here as well. The long-term trend line that has supported Bitcoin dominance for years has broken down. Now the chart is still holding a support level below the trend line, so we can't say for sure that the trend has fully reversed yet, I would say. But the fact that we are trading below that multi-year trend line is definitely something worth paying attention to. Because if Bitcoin dominance starts trending lower, that would mean that the alt market is starting to gain strength on Bitcoin. And that's typically the environment where altcoins start to rally again. Now another crazy statistic I came across as I was doing research for this video is that 38% of the entire alt market is currently sitting at all-time lows. That means nearly 4 out of every 10 altcoins are sitting close to the weakest price levels they have ever seen since their launch. And when you see that kind of widespread weakness across an entire sector, it often suggests that the market has gone through a long period of capitulation. At the same time, there is also an important reason why the alt market has been trending down for years. The number of altcoins have grown massively. There are simply far more coins competing for liquidity compared to previous cycles. That means investor capital is now spread across way more projects. And because of that, many coins fail to attract long-term investors. Some projects slowly fade away, others lose community support, and many end up drifting lower over time. So even if the overall alt market eventually recovers, it doesn't necessarily mean that every project is gonna bounce back, which is something I think a lot of people forget. Now, if we look at some individual altcoins, there is also some interesting setups there. Take Cardano for example. Right now Cardano is trading near levels where we have historically seen strong support in previous cycles. But it's not just the price level that stands out. Some of the indicators are also starting to look interesting. If we look at the RSI indicator, which is currently sitting right around the oversold territory, which means that the asset has experienced a significant amount of selling pressure. And at the same time, the MACD is getting close to flipping bullish again after being bearish for quite a long period. And there is actually several altcoins showing similar setups right now. So when you combine coins sitting at major support levels with broader market indicators suggesting a potential bottom, it starts to create an interesting situation. Some of these projects could be extremely undervalued right now if the market flips. Now with that said, I want to be very clear about something. I'm not saying everybody should suddenly start buying altcoins. Personally, I have about 80% in Bitcoin and Ethereum and about 20% in altcoins and stablecoins. And even with that, about 10% of that is in Solana. So I'm definitely not heavily exposed to altcoins, and that's not something I'm looking to change either. In fact, I don't think we are gonna see as extreme alt season as we have done in previous cycles. Back then, we simply had far fewer projects in the market. Today, there is millions of coins competing for attention, and after years of rug pull, scams, and failed projects, the trust for the altcoin market has taken a huge hit. Money also moves through the market much faster than what it used to do. Narratives rise quickly and fades just as fast. So I think it is super important to be careful when it comes to altcoins. But at the same time, when I look at these charts, I can't help but ask myself, has the alt market already put in a bottom? Because right now Bitcoin has only been in a bear market for about 5 months. And historically a Bitcoin bear market tends to last around 1 year. But here's where things get interesting. Bitcoin had a bull market recently, while the broader alt market largely didn't. Sure, some projects managed to reach new all-time highs, but as a whole we didn't get that alt season that we have seen in previous cycles. So it raises an interesting possibility. Could we potentially see the opposite scenario this time around, where altcoins start having their own rally while Bitcoin struggles, just like altcoins struggled while Bitcoin was shining? Of course, no one knows exactly how things are gonna play out. I just thought it would be interesting to share this perspective. Always do your own research before making any investments. So If you enjoyed this video, remember to like and subscribe. Comment down below what I can do better. I love to hear from you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.